I try and turn every negative into a positive.
Welcome to Island Influencers, where we share stories of successful business owners, experienced professionals, entrepreneurs, and community leaders based or with influence in the Isle of Man. This podcast is brought to you by Thornton Chartered Financial Planners, because great financial planning has the power to change your life. Now here's your host, Sharon Sutton.
This week's Island Influencer is Jamie Lewis, founder at Trustee, helping hospitality brands build, transform and communicate. In addition, Jamie is the managing director of Extra Fancy, co-founder of Table of Two and director and trustee of Isle of Pride. Jamie grew up in Chesterfield during the New Labour years with a big focus on education and a big focus on getting people from disadvantaged backgrounds into university. He went to Sheffield University admitting he burnt the wick at both ends, working 20 to 30 hours a week and partying. Jamie still graduated with a first degree in sociology and politics. Although he was, and still is, fascinated by politics and what's happening in the world, most of Jamie's experience is in the hospitality industry. Jamie has created businesses today steeped in values learnt through working for McDonald's and Disney in his teens and 20s. Like many of my island influencers, Jamie thought he'd come to the Isle of Man for a few months and ended up settling here. It's a common story. I particularly enjoyed his chicken nugget, Usain Bolt at the Beijing Olympics yarn. So here's my conversation with Jamie Lewis in episode 84 of Island Influencers. Now, apologies for the sound quality throughout this Jamie's episode. Jamie's a really busy man, and I'd been trying to chat to him for ages. And the easiest way to arrange it sooner rather than later was over Zoom. So, unfortunately, the sound quality is a little different from what you'd expect from the podcast, but it's still an episode not to be missed. Welcome to the Island Influencers podcast to Jamie Lewis of, can I say, Extra Fancy Limited, because that's where I know you from.
Hi Sharon, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. It's we've been trying to arrange to speak for a while now, haven't we?
For a long time. I'm really sorry, and we've still not managed to do it in person.
Oh no, it's fine. Zoom's good. I think we're all pretty well practiced on Zoom, aren't we, with such things?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. Well, absolutely fabulous to finally get to talk to you. So without further ado, if you wouldn't mind just telling us all about you, where you've come from and how you're doing what you're doing right now, it'd be great for us to find out.
Hi, I'm Jamie. I'm from Chesterfield originally, which is a little town on the border to Sheffield, but it's actually in Derbyshire. I lived there and went to uni in Sheffield, and then quite uncommonly, I guess, I moved as a 21-year-old, age which most people are moving away.
Yeah.
So I moved here at 21 and worked for 14 North.
So you moved straight away over to the Isle of Man?
Sorry.
Straight out of uni, you came straight to the Isle of Man?
Straight out of uni, yeah. So Phil Taylor is my now wife's. So I moved to work during the summer, basically, at 14, which had opened the previous year. Was here just for the summer, basically, to work, deciding what to do when I grew. And upon leaving, Phil offered me the options on the table at that point. I had two graduate scheme offers. One was Hilton Hotel Marriott. And I can't remember the other, Southern, but where outside of London, really random, was going to be the place I was working. So the Isle of Man actually seemed like the lead option, considering getting back to like Derbyshire area.
Gosh,
The consideration and options. My wife, or now wife, still had a year left, and I said, well, the least kind of tying me down option was to do a year in the Isle of Man, and then we'd figure out to kind of stall it. I have that same story as residents have, that they moved here for a year and ended up settling.
Oh my goodness! Well, that's fascinating. And I was looking through your LinkedIn profile before we spoke today, and I noticed you'd had some pretty interesting roles along the way before you did that. I mean, so I'm really curious to know, having not long been in Florida, what was it like working as a concierge at Disney World? Was that since you've been?
Incredible. It's so good.
So your timeline, that was
Sorry,
2010. Because I noticed from your LinkedIn profile, one thing that leaps out at me is a research intern at the House of Commons. I mean, what was that like?
Where do I start? That was what I thought I wanted to be when I grew up. I did a politics degree, so not super related. The majority of my experience is in hospitality, but I didn't. Again, I'm from a generation, I think, where grew up during like the New Labour years, so there was a big focus on education and a big focus on getting people from disadvantaged backgrounds into university, of which the area that I'm from certainly is.
Oh gosh, yes.
I'm no sub story. With my family is we still live on a council estate at home. My school was pretty diabolical. It's actually now closed down. It got shut down because of the Ofsted reports were so bad and was in special measures for so long. But actually, the year that I left secondary school, I guess there was a really good intake of people into unis. So I kind of felt forced to go, really. And I just chose something that I was interested in. So I did sociology and politics. And obviously, you start looking through career options and things that you think might be of interest to you. I really enjoyed like the research-based modules. So I looked into things, and my uncle was friends with our local politician, Paul Holmes, I think his name was, and I got offered an internship. It was meant to be for 3 months, and I lasted 2 weeks.
Oh, really? Oh dear. So did you have to go to London for it? Or was this locally based?
No, it was in Portcullis House, so it was with his the researchers. I'm not sure what. I mean, it's long enough ago now, and he's not been a politician for a long time. He lost his seat at the next election. He was pretty badly implicated in the expenses scandal, so he lost his seat. And actually, ironically, he refused to pay me as an 18 or 19-year-old. I can't remember how old I was now. My expenses for travel from Chesterfield to London, and for like my lunches, even though it had been said that that's what I would get. So it was. I
see. So what did you think of politicians after that? Did you have a view on politicians before and after?
Do you know what? I'm still absolutely enthralled and fascinated, and probably like my wife would say, my toxic trait is probably listening to too many politics podcasts and getting myself stressed out about what's going on in the world. But yeah, no, I'm still an avid listener. Still keep up to date with what's going on. Yeah.
Yeah. No designs to be an MHK in the future, then, Jamie.
Don't know about that.
That's so fine. So moving on. Moving on. So you did a good old stint at McDonald's too. By the looks of it, was that to support the university as you were? When did you do that?
Honestly, it was my first job.
Right.
It was my first job when I was just turned 16. I'd applied for so many jobs at the time, most of them in hospitality. And the biggest knockback I wanted, I can't remember what the hell it was called now. It was a restaurant, and I knew the tips were really good, and I didn't get the job. So I ended up going to work for McDonald's, which I thought at the time I was just a bit like, oh, it's a part-time job. I was telling someone at work this, one of the younger staff members, my first hourly rate was £3.45 or something, I think, right. which was fun.
Yeah, I bet.
In McDonald's. But do you know what? It's some of my happiest hospitality memories. I absolutely loved it. It gave me so many good opportunities. It was exactly the right kind of culture I needed to be in at that point in life. The opportunities it opened up. I think within a year, I was on like a management training program, and I think I almost didn't go to uni because I got a good job offer from them. I think I'd probably be on more money than I am now if I'd have stayed with them. I've got a friend that is like a business manager for them now, or an area manager or something, and he's a pretty good wedge.
Yeah, it's an interesting business model, isn't it?
Oh, it's incredible.
Yeah.
Absolutely incredible. Like I say, the training opportunities, the kind of early impact on like my hospitality journey I owe to working for McDonald's. I got the opportunity to work in Beijing during the Olympics. I won an internal, I guess like an internship program, and the other prize was to go and work in Beijing during the Olympics. There were 5 of us selected, and they took people from around the world.
My word.
So we worked in like the athletes' village.
What was that like?
Quip that all my as a 18-year-old, in China during the Olympics, it was mad. I met all the sports stars of the day. My friends mock me because my I guess dinner party stories. I served Usain. They're going to literally laugh when they hear me saying this. I served Usain Bolt pre 200-meter win his 60 chicken nuggets, and nobody believed me that's what he ate until he was on Top Gear. He was on Top Gear a few years later and confirmed it.
So my goodness. Well, there you are, boys and girls. If you want to be a world-breaking 200-meter athlete, eat 60 chicken nuggets before 100%.
Met Gordon Brown. He was very nice.
Yeah.
When he was Prime Minister. It was crazy. So we worked in the athletes' village and the media centre as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that sort of opened your eyes to other opportunities. How did you get to go to Disney World? How did that come about?
So I continued working for McDonald's until 2010, and I left because of the Disney opportunity. Basically, I was still doing a managerial job for them during the first 2 years of uni, and I'd kind of got to third year. I don't know what was the right word. Blagged my way through the first couple of years, and I thought I really need to start taking this seriously now, and get the grades that I want. So I saw this opportunity for Disney. The new manager that we had at that time wasn't open to me taking the 6 months out to go and do that.
What a shame.
So I left it. I left at that point. Yeah, I think so. But I think it also it helped me. I'm glad that it happened because the job when I got back from Disney was as a bartender, which is what my subsequent hospitality career has revolved around, really. So yeah, it was like a summer internship program essentially.
Where were you based?
And you could I was at the Animal Kingdom Lodge. What was it called?
Oh, really?
That's incredible.
Yeah. Never been there, but I've been to Animal
Kingdom.
I was
really lucky because so good. I was really fortunate because most people that were on the program with me didn't get their first choices in anything, and I got my first choice role. Well, I was put into I was a bellhop to start with, and I kind of segued into concierge, and I got the hotel that I wanted to work in as well, and I didn't even ask that. I just was it was incredible. What did you learn? They are the world's best at hospitality, and I think with the background of Disney, you've got the background of McDonald's. They are the most efficient operation in the world, I would say, hospitality wise. Every movement, everything has a purpose at McDonald's, and I guess Disney just taught me the softer skills that it wasn't just about having a super efficient and kind of service-driven operation. It's like that extra level of hospitality of going the extra mile for people. I mean, just to give an example, when I was working on the Bell Services desk, I think somebody's suitcase got left outside during Florida's a very sporadic place for weather. It can be absolutely chucking it down 1 second and baking hot the next, and someone's case got left outside in bad weather, wet through, all their clothes ruined. And so for me, I was like, right, obviously I've taken the case to dry to the laundrette. They're going to get everything dry clean and try and save it. And then my manager said, well, how are we going to solve this? We don't want these people to be unhappy or to leave with a bad taste in their mouth. So they just gave me kind of carte blanche to take them to the gift shop, and was just like, get whatever you want, get your clothes, you can buy anything Disney branded. So get an outfit for the night. Appreciate it might not be what you want to wear. We're going to take you for dinner. We're going to do this. And it was just this overkill, which to some may seem, well, it is very overkill. But to me, seeing that as a 20-year-old was just like, this is incredible. They've made a mistake. They've owned up to it. And they have gone out of their way to ensure that that guest leaves happy. And that was that's the rule, is you just want everyone to be happy. So
wow.
That level of hospitality training, and I hope I certainly try to deliver and teach my staff to deliver, is rooted, it's in those two early experiences of, efficiency and quality and value from one end, but then the absolute,
yes.
The overkill on the other side.
So what happened after you had that experience at Disney?
So I went back very sadly to not so sunny Sheffield, full of ideas and inspiration. As I alluded to, I'd left my job with McDonald's, and I think the plan initially was not work in third year, but that didn't really last for that long. I saw a bar job come up with Revolution Bars, Revolution Group, and something was ringing true in my head. And it's very different in America to the UK, but I remember asking, how do you get a bartending job at one of the hotels? It had always intrigued me, and I thought that was the area that I wanted to go in. And the honest answer was, somebody has to die to get a bar job at Disney, because the tips are so good, you make so much money. And I was like, okay, that's the job for me. We're gonna go down that route. And I saw a bar job at a company called Revolution, and applied, got the job, and started working.
But they were back in Sheffield, not in Florida.
Not in Florida. People in Sheffield don't tip quite as well as
no, really,
in America. Still don't. But we, I loved it, and it was definitely that bug of bartending and making cocktails, and that's where that started. And my housemates hated me at uni because I graduated with a first, and
wow,
they said I cannot. I was the only person in the house. I think one of them, if they listen to this, might correct me, but I think I was actually the only first in the house, and I was definitely the person that burnt the wick at both ends. I was probably working 20, 30 hours a week, partying probably just as much. So it really...
Well, how inspirational is that, eh? Just fantastic. Yeah.
Probably frustrating to teachers and lecturers, because if I'd have not done that, I might have... I don't know. That was the feedback through school, probably. Was work if you actually put your mind to it.
Yeah. So tell me about how the opportunity came to come here then, because you came here after that, I understand.
Yeah. So graduated. My now wife Charlotte. She and
you met Charlotte at university, did you? Sorry, you met Charlotte at university.
We're both from the same hometown, so we've been together since we were 16 and 17.
Gosh.
So almost. I think this year's anniversary means we've been together longer than not, which is quite scary.
Or sound of a great chemistry. The proof of a great chemistry.
Or sound of great chemistry. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So her cousin is Phil Taylor, who owns Rock Food Concepts, and they had opened 14 North when 2010. We came to visit in March 2011, and we talked then about coming over just to work during the summer to help out, get some restaurant experience. I'd applied for a couple of graduate schemes with Marriott and with Hilton. I got offers for those. One was in Aberdeen and one was somewhere down south, and I don't know. And ultimately, Phil offered me a job at the end of the summer, and the Isle of Man actually felt like the least remote option in comparison, or certainly the quickest to get home for visits. And yeah, I guess the rest is history. I've got the same same story as most of my guests, that they moved to the Isle of Man for a year and they're still here 10 years later. Yeah.
Well, that's our gain.
But yeah.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So when you got involved with 14 North and Rock Food Concepts, you stayed there for a number of years. What happened after that?
Yeah, so I worked at 14 North for a year, but yeah, my passion was definitely in cocktails and in bartending. So we were kind of coming up to the point where I was deciding what was next. Charlotte was finishing uni, and I think I'd maybe expressed a desire at that point for us to move to London or similar. And Phil said that he'd signed a lease on a new place, which later became Bath and Bottle. So I was the general manager there, which was an incredible experience at a young age.
I remember it fondly. And I think many
me too.
others will say they remember the Bath and Bottle very fondly.
Oh, I miss it so much. I really, really do. It's such a loss for everybody. It was such good fun, and it was really nice because I think actually looking back, we were so on point with what we did there at the time, and bartending and cocktails have kind of moved on a lot since then. And I think that's one of the sad things about Bath and Bottle is I feel like it never really got the notoriety that it should have had for where it was in the in the world at that time. And I remember guests coming in and saying, "Oh, we went to so and so in London, or we've been to so and so in New York, and it wasn't as good as this." And you think they're just paying you lip service, but then having actually travelled around, at the time and subsequently, I think not to float my own ego at all, because it was down to the talented staff that we had there as well. It was on point. So it's sad that it's gone. I did get a little bit of recognition recently. One of the cocktails I created there got entered into I guess it's like the
Rita and Ernest.
It's called
the Rita and Ernest.
Ernest and Rita, yeah.
The Ernest and Rita cocktail. Sounds amazing. I don't think I've ever had that particular margarita. It does sound good.
Oh, it's very good if I say so myself. But
and congratulations! I mean, that's quite an accolade to be listed in that publication.
Oh, thank you so much. It was completely unexpected. My colleague and now business partner Drew entered that into he just emailed it to them and asked if they would consider it for submission. And the guy did Simon differed tastes and rigorously reviews everything that gets submitted. So it's such an honour to be listed along something. I think we're on the same page as an espresso martini, which is pretty good because it means a lot of people are going to be
try this.
They're going to be seeing it.
Yeah. Well, let's hope. So that was from that era. So I know you from Extra Fancy, which is where we met. For the benefit of our listeners who don't know you, just tell us what that business is all about.
So Extra Fancy started life as a sole trader business called Lewis Lewis. I had been working for Rock Food and for Phil since 2011, and I was ready for a little bit of a change, to be honest. I had lots of ideas of things that I wanted to do myself and things that I wanted to pursue, of which Phil was really supportive of. And I decided that the niche we were going to fall into would be for outside events, which is what Lewis Lewis started life as. And to be honest, it kind of just snowballed. During that period of time, I did a 2-week stint at Zedra in client due diligence, just to help pay the bills.
And to make sure that you didn't want to go into that sort of career.
I never wanted to go into that sort of career. You will notice it's not on my LinkedIn profile.
No.
It's just not for me. I'd never ever done office work, and I thought, well, give it a go. Maybe I can do this in the week and do the bartending on the weekend, and that'll kind of keep me going. And an opportunity came up kind of through working an event where I met Mary Bethany in from Foraging Vintners.
Yes.
So I did a little consultancy project and for them and helped them get open. I was there for 3 or 4 months. We've remained really close and really good friends since. We're actually on the new side of the business doing a little bit of work for them at the minute, in the marketing side of things. But that they gave me, I'm going to be forever grateful to them. They gave me the kind of confidence to go it alone and helped me on that journey and got me out of a 9 to 5, I remember Ian just saying, "You look miserable today," and I was like, "I am a little bit," because I'm torn in what direction's going. But yeah, I'll be forever grateful for them for pushing me to go it alone. So I guess kind of what followed was a bit of a portfolio career. I guess I've always been quite creative, which I kind of channeled through cocktail menus and design and event ideas and things like that.
Yes, it's a very constructive way to use alcohol, Jamie, if I don't mind me saying.
Yeah. Yeah. I kind of, what happened next is I got involved with my previous business partner, Kate Hegarty, who just set up Jeff the Mongoose.
Yes.
So we went on a bit of a journey there, and it's incredible to see now that I'm not involved in it that Jeff is still living on.
Yeah, we had Sam Turton on here a little while ago. Sam Turton was a guest.
Yeah. So
yeah.
So what the guys have done with it, when we started that, it was, I don't know. I guess it was it was trying to shed some just good news stories about the Isle of Man and kind of give young people a place to kind of consume the news and consume opinion pieces about island life and the irreverence. So to see what it's become, I mean, I think we parted ways amicably, I might say, but we parted ways just to, I wanted to continue pursuing hospitality and event side of stuff, and Kate wanted to stick in that world. So I left that partnership with the venue Peggy's, and Kate left with Jeff.
Yeah, okay.
I honestly don't know. During COVID, I don't think I could have kept up the pace with what those guys did. I remember looking at it and speaking to Kate during that time and just being like, I have such adoration for what they did, because I think that clearly the newspapers acknowledge that as well. Having wanted to buy that company, they killed it. They absolutely killed it. Sam's questioning was the best questioning. He was the only one, between him and Paul Moulton, they were the only ones holding people accountable and asking the questions people actually wanted to hear. Their presentation of the stats was top notch. And I honestly don't think I'd have had the stomach to stick that out. It was really, really admirable. And I know that Sam's been a huge part of that. So yeah. But just to say well done to them for that. And I like I say, that's probably, had I not already gone, I think that's probably the point that would have broke me, because I had a young kid.
Yeah.
Harvey was born 2018, so he was
2.5.
Yeah, well, at the start of COVID, 14 months, I think, and I loved that. Having 3 months initially, and then what followed. I couldn't work, I couldn't.
Yeah, of course.
We couldn't open the bars initially. We couldn't even do the deliveries and things. So I just got to spend 3 months hanging out with Harvey, which was incredible. So such adoration for what they did. And sorry, to get that back on track, we opened, subsequently formed Extra Fancy, or Lewis became Extra Fancy, and we opened a pop-up venue called Peggy's, which was an invitation from a friend at Sleepwell Hotels. They said they had this basement space that they would lease to us on very favourable terms for a pop-up period. If we wanted to try out a concept and then potentially take it on a longer term lease after that.
Yeah.
And I honestly don't even know where to start. That is such a such a concept, and such
a new concept for the Isle of Man to do that. It was a roaring success, which is kind of why it didn't. Why it didn't continue.
It was such a roller coaster. We opened December 18 for 6 weeks. we were so overwhelmed with how well that went, considering, not to, including a very, very deep clean from what it was as a previous venue. We literally painted the venue white, put up a pink neon light and some disco balls, and got super creative on, the cocktail menu, and really creative with the experience as a whole.
Yeah.
But really, it was just a blank canvas space with a neon light. If you put it into the simplest terms, what we tried to do is just curate like a really fun experience and kind of hit all the touch points. The social media obviously was super playful and funny. That getting into that character was really fun to market that venue.
And how did you hit on the concept of doing outside catering, outside bars? Was that something you'd always? Was that something you always highlighted, or did it occur to you? I mean, what particularly made you think of it? What was the inspiration behind it?
In 2014, a long time ago, I entered a bartending competition, the Monkey Shoulder Ultimate Bartending Competition. It was a team of 3 of us, and the prize was to open a pop-up at London Cocktail Week. And we kind of entered it with absolutely zero expectation, and ended up placing second.
Wow.
But what that did, it was a lot of, every kind of round of it was super intense. But the final round was to do a little pop-up concept. That was in like a warehouse space, and you pitted it out against the other team. We were robbed, if I'm being perfectly honest. We won on the popular vote, and then the judges' vote swung it in the other way, and it was a team from Scotland, and it was a Scottish whiskey competition. So,
Okay,
I'm not bitter all these years later. But to be honest, I'm still friends with some of the guys in the other team, so it's good connections. But I think that experience and having seen how the kind of pop-up events world works, and if you've never experienced that, you would think that it's difficult to transport a bar from one place to the other. But there, as in any kind of large scale catering, there are little tips and tricks and ice deliveries and prepping in a different way.
Yeah.
Excuse me. And that kind of inspired me, and I don't know, gave me the bug for that events world, to be honest. So yeah, Lewis followed. It became Extra Fancy, and that led into work. We have a disproportionate amount of high net worths, I guess, on the Isle of Man. Certainly where I'm from. I don't know how successful the kind of the business would be if I was back home. You probably get weddings and things, but we're fortunate that the outside event side of things now, it's not something that we advertise. It's connections that we make through events and various
you have a great reputation in that, Jamie. So you don't get one of those easily. Reputations are hard won. So yeah, thank
you. Which is it's odd. We've got like 2 different sides to the business. There's that side where it's looking, running the bars for big events for people, and then on the other side is Peggy's, or was Peggy's. It was this little basement nightclub. So we straddled that line. That on one end is something super high end and the service that we provide, and then on the other end is, it was house music, disco balls, and neon lights.
Yeah. Fantastic.
So the kind of wild ride of Peggy's ultimately had a shelf life on it. It became increasingly hard to, with a limited population, to kind of deliver what we wanted to do each week.
Yeah.
And in order to make that kind of profitable, we always wanted to have like quality DJs on, and it's quite hard to run that especially with the population of young people being so small. So the Peggy brand still lives on, and we still run like the occasional pop up with it, and those are always super well attended. So it's nice to have that memory. Certainly during COVID, it thrived when we had every young person in the world that had a claim to the Isle of Man would much rather have been here than
absolutely
anywhere else, locked up anywhere else.
The whole of the population, just to be clear.
Yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, we closed that last year. During COVID, we pivoted the venue. We had half of it that was kind of never used. It's a really big space, and we turned it into a sit-down cocktail bar or table service cocktail bar called Kiki's. It was inspired by tropical bars from across time, and the idea was to give residents on the island a little bit of escapism when no one could actually escape the rock. So we really went in on the theming in there. It's very tropical. There's lots of people come in and say, "Oh, there used to be a place called the Hawaiian Bar," and you remind us of that. So that's nice that people have got kind of making those associations.
Long memories.
And yeah, but it just gave me that bug back for providing that elevated service. And I enjoy very much the juxtaposition that there's like taxidermy in there's palm leaves, there's random pictures on the wall. It's very kitsch, but the service and the drinks that we're trying to provide are much higher end. So yeah, that came kind of out of necessity because we didn't know what COVID rules were going to be in place, and it's become the mainstay now, which is really nice, and has led to some of our team winning global awards, which is it's been like I say, that venue as a whole has just been a bit of a wild ride, but I'm glad it's like a nicer tangent there.
Yeah, good. So now you're running Courtesy as well. How did that come about?
Yes. So Courtesy is kind of actually weirdly a little loop back to what we started doing in the early days of Lewis and what led to that project with Forage and Vintners. We'd been getting asked to help with design bits and marketing for people, and I guess it's been born out of the creativity that myself and the team have thrown into every project that we've had, including in the Jeff days as well. So we've worked with branding and design agency for niched at the hospitality sector.
Yeah.
We have worked with quite a few local businesses already, and we're looking to push kind of further afield in the years that follow. We started this business at the start of COVID, and we'd worked with a couple of businesses locally, and at that time it was just a way to continue working, doing a little bit of work when I couldn't open the bar and we couldn't do things.
Yeah.
But it's
a great pivot. It's it was a really bright pivot to do. Makes a lot of sense.
Thank you very much. But yeah, we relaunched earlier this year. I've gone into partnership with Drew Fleming, who works for us in Kiki's,
yes.
And Ben Thornton, who's a designer that we've worked with. We've worked together on a lot of projects and a lot of the extra fancy projects over the years. So businesses that we've worked with under Courtesy, with Roots, who just opened their second venue in Douglas.
Yes.
So we did a little bit of a brand refresh for them and like helped with all the touch points from like menus, window vinyls, packaging design. It's been really, really fun. Secret Pizza, who did, they've bought back their food truck. It's now called Sneaky Pete's. So we did work with them.
Lovely.
We worked with Forage and Vintners, who recently launched a new product, which is a Manx apple port erin. So we helped kind of packaging design, marketing services, which has been fun. And we actually did a book cover, which was the most fun and most satisfying thing I've ever done. Stuart McFall is a longtime friend. When I first met him, he was writing for Jeff, and I can't remember what his job was previously, which says it all, but he was destined to be a writer. He's an incredible writer. So actually being able to work with him and kind of take what was in his head and us get that down on a page. It's now a book that's sold on Amazon. It's just like, it's just wild.
Fantastic.
That one for me been
Yeah.
so fulfilling, and not necessarily hospitality related, but yeah.
Gosh, well, that's some story. Thanks for sharing all of that. But if you don't mind, what I'm going to do, and I'm going to move on to asking you the question that I make everybody squirm with. But so primarily, I ask this in my day job as a financial planner. But for you, what are your earliest memories of money? I mean, you've already touched on that you've gone out and got jobs and stuff. But how was money growing up?
I heard you ask somebody this question. I was thinking about how to answer it, because the truth is we didn't really have much money growing up. My mum was a single parent. My dad left when I was like 2 or 3. She worked a hell of a lot until she met my stepdad when I was about 7. I spent a lot of time with my grandparents, but yeah, honestly, like we didn't have any, but I didn't really notice. And I've asked my mum these things since, and she was like, I was like, how did you afford like nice clothes? I know, I've never felt like I've gone without anything. But it's only now that I've got kids and I realize how bloody expensive it is.
Yeah.
I don't understand how I'm very aware that we didn't have a lot of money, but she said, well, I'd always buy spend my money on nice clothes so nobody knew that, and didn't want you to kind of get bullied or go without or anything like that. So my earliest memories of money, it's really nice that I wasn't aware that we weren't that well off, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but your work ethic to me tells me,
sure how
that you're not frightened of hard work.
Oh God, no! And that 100% comes from my mum. Like that comes from nowhere else. That comes from my mum, struggling to get by with zero support from my birth father, zero support. And that work ethic very much comes from just that desire to succeed and to do my mum proud and my grandparents proud, that helped during that time.
I'm sure they are.
Yeah, I'm very, 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 very grateful for instilling that work ethic.
So of all the things that you've done throughout your life so far, what's given you the most fulfillment?
Honestly, on a personal level or a work level?
Well, you can give both if you like.
On a personal level, probably a bit cliche, but my kids, it's not having a strong, not having a present father, either, or being able to spend that time with the kids. That's I was worried that I wouldn't know how to be a dad, and you very quickly realize that no one's got a clue how to be a parent. They let you leave the hospital with zero. You qualify for everything in life, and then you get to leave the hospital with this baby, and you're like, oh, okay.
Now what?
Now what? So on a personal level, my kids. On a work level, honestly, it's not even something I've done. It's something that Drew, who is now my business partner, but has worked for me, has done. That award that he won earlier this year. It gave me so much joy as as his mentor for him to be recognized on a global stage, and that's not to take any of the shine away from what he's achieved. But it's that sense of pride, and it's made me reflect on myself as well. So that's incredible.
That's a pretty wonderful answer. Thanks. So for any aspiring or existing business owner, entrepreneur, what would be your number one tip?
There's 2, and I guess it's kind of the same answer, but it's just surround yourself with good people. Find the right mentor for you, somebody that's going to inspire you, that's going to tell you when you're wrong, somebody that's going to just be honest and brutally honest. I've had fortunate to have had a couple of good mentors, Phil being one, Carol Glover as my coach, another. I know she did this podcast early on as well. But likewise, employ people that are better than you. So it's quite a scary thing when people are better than you at something and they can match you skill for skill. But I'm not the kind of person that gets flustered by that. It's incredible.
It's the best thing, isn't it?
You can learn from them.
Yeah, I've been doing that for a while
amazing.
Now. It's great.
Yeah. But yeah, like that's nothing to be scared of. It's it's a really positive thing.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. So, what do you do to relax? I'm curious that you must spend quite a lot of antisocial hours doing what you do. But so, what do you do to relax?
More antisocial hours than my wife would prefer, which is one of the reasons of pivoting into Courtesy. To kind of stay in the industry that I love and want to be in, but to balance out the time with family and kids.
Yeah, sure.
To relax, Lego. I'm an AFL, which is an adult fan of Lego. But yeah, that was something that started during COVID.
Right.
It's just, I feel like everyone picked up a hobby during COVID.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, I have vast resources of it. We shall talk. What's your favourite set or kind of series of Lego?
Star Wars are my favourites.
Is it? Oh, so what's your best piece? What have you got? What's your?
Got a Millennium Falcon.
Yeah, one of the original ones. Sure.
Yeah. We've got the Millennium Falcon, and do you know what? The proudest moment, and my wife is going to kill me for this. I really, really wanted when I was a kid a Lego. It was like a Lego castle, and it had a lion. And I can't remember the name of the set now. And I was bought a Mega Bloks version of it, which, as a kid you didn't really notice, but it wasn't the one that I wanted that was on the TV. And they re-released that set last year, and I bought it, and I'm still building it at the minute. It's huge, but that's a nice little later in life. So that's my favourite set, which sits aside. But yeah, Star
Fantastic.
Wars.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yes, I'm fully with you on Lego. It's very, very relaxing, especially if you've got someone to find the bricks for you beforehand. So what do you think are the best things about living in the Isle of Man other than getting Lego delivered?
That's one of the worst. It takes forever. The best things about living in the Isle of Man. Do you know what? I remember the first year I was here, I couldn't wait to get away because all my friends had moved to London. And I thought that was where I needed to be to succeed or to do anything. And it very quickly became apparent that all those friends were really, really lonely and didn't spend time. It's really easy, I think, for me to look back at that and see friends of all being in the same place and thinking that they saw each other all the time. In actual fact, the friends that I've made here, you do see them quite often. You are able to hang out at the weekend. You do prioritize, and that sense of community is huge. Like the friends from Bath and Bottle are still like my best friends and godparents to my kids now. And even now, like looking at friends that still live in London or Manchester or wherever, like I think it's really apparent that they don't have that support network that we do. And it's why I don't think I'll ever move back, to be honest. It's quicker to get to London from here than it is from home.
You're probably right. So what would you say are the main challenges then the Isle of Man faces, from your own perspective, your business perspective?
I try and turn every negative into a positive. Like, the extra fancy exists. It's always been niched, a younger audience, I guess. And it was kind of born out of the era of providing escapism without escaping the rock is like our kind of raison d'etre, I guess. And it's to try and provide those experiences that aren't as frequent on the Isle of Man. Challenge generally like really boring on like a work sense. It's just logistics and getting suppliers to stock things that need in regular supply, but you appreciate that other venues aren't using specialty, so you want to use a local provider, but you also don't want them to be sat with stuff in a warehouse that they can't ship. During COVID, it was a really fun part during COVID. We flipped around a little bit that we were open and need, but nowhere was producing stuff. So it's like we couldn't get because no one was selling it.
No.
Yeah, on a really boring sense, just the logistical side of it.
Yeah. And any solutions or
And not have,
opportunities?
yeah, the other things like, I don't know, things like Stripe, not being able to use Stripe because because of the banking ring fencing and all that stuff that
Yeah.
is above my head a little bit.
Well, it could be
It's
changing.
like
If you listen to the news last week in the UK, they're thinking of rescinding all of that stuff, aren't they? Yeah.
well, I'm not well informed enough to know the kind of the pros and the cons off the top of my head, but we want to push the Isle of Man as a place for people to move and do business, but they can't open a Stripe account, which is what most online payment walls use,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
go cardless and things like that. It's they really need to get their finger out and sort that kind of stuff out.
Yeah,
because it would prohibit someone from doing business here.
Yeah, it is. There are some challenges for sure. Yeah. Okay. So, what have you got planned next? What's next in the exciting life of Jamie Lewis?
Do you know what? Just getting my head down on the new business, and we're in a really good place at the minute. That Kiki's has kind of found its following. There's no more pop-ups planned just yet. I'll never say never. But we opened Moonlight in TT this year. This year?
Yeah.
It's been a long 6 months. And that, it did really well, and we've kept it. And I think it's found a part of like the Isle of Man's nightlife that we bill it as being somewhere between the 80s and 90s. So it hits a good broad demographic, which is quite nice to see that venue with a bit of life in it again. But yeah, no more pop-ups planned in the short term.
You're going to be back for TT?
Oh, it's open every weekend. So Kiki's every weekend, yeah. Moonlight's every weekend now.
Right, okay.
So Moonlight kind of survived past TT. I usually get a bit bored after 6 weeks. My wife said you need to stop with the pivot in the venue because it's just so all-consuming. So the venues are here to stay. Head down on the new business, and actually doing a coaching qualification as well.
Oh, are you? Which one?
British School of Coaching.
Right.
It's a level 5, I think. Again, that's been born. Something I've realised about myself this year is that one of the biggest joys, which is what I alluded to earlier, is actually is mentoring people. And I know coaching and mentoring are very different, but it's actually just seeing other people succeed, and that's a huge sense of fulfillment from that. So I'm doing this qualification mainly for internal kind of purposes within the work environment.
Yeah, it's a brilliant attribute.
Who knows?
Yeah. Right. So last few questions then, just a bit of fun. Any books you've read recently that you'd recommend as a source of inspiration or just a good read?
I'm a podcast person. I consume far too many politics podcasts. So Rest is Politics, News Agents, Diary of a CEO has been incredible lately. Like the guests on that have been really, really good. Do you know what? One thing I would really, really like to do is be able to sit down and have the concentration to read a book. I consume audio books like one a week, and I really, really, really miss sitting and reading a book. But I think because the kids are thinking about work and stuff, my concentration span has gone. The best thing I read recently is a book called Unreasonable Hospitality: The Remarkable Power of Giving People More Than They Expect. And it was a guy called Will Guidara. And it's a really inspirational hospitality story. He had a place. He's a hospitality legend from New York, basically.
Yeah, maybe he was involved with Walt Disney. Really, what do you reckon?
No, he's restaurants, 11 Madison Park, and the what's the another big hotel? It's gone now. But anyone interested and applicable across the board, not just hospitality. Yeah.
So who inspires you?
Industry heroes, Bob Iger, who is the, again, cliche, but he's the I think he's just gone back as the CEO of Disney. He tried to leave when he was replaced, and he's back. Super inspirational guy. I absolutely love listening and reading Alistair Campbell's work as well. I think in the political spectrum, what a guy.
Yeah, thank you.
As a marketeer as well.
What's your favorite quote?
So again, it's a Disney one. I'm going to sound like a one-track record here, but it's a Walt Disney quote from the man himself. And it's, "All the adversity I've had in my life, all the troubles and obstacles have strengthened me. You may not realize it when it happens, but a kick in the teeth may be the best thing in the world for you.
Yeah, that's a good, interesting quote from Mr. Walt Disney himself. My goodness, thank you for sharing that. So finally, where can people go to learn more about you and what you're up to and the businesses that you've got? What's the best format they can go to? Is, I guess, social media. You're on all the platforms.
We're on all the platforms, yeah.
Okay.
So there's I don't know. There's a list a mile long of social media channels for the various.
That's fine. If we give it, you send them to us, and
um,
we'll put them in the podcast notes, so that people can find you from there.
Amazing.
Yeah. Well, other than that, I think it's. Thank you so much for your time today, Jamie. It's been great to get to know all about you and hear so much inspirational stuff. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you very, very much.
Ireland Influencers is a fortnightly podcast. Make sure you don't miss the next episode by clicking the follow button on your podcast platform. A big thanks to the producer and editor of this episode, Catherine Watts and James Spooner at Bear Content. And thank you for listening.